morning. It's time for fourth grade reading and writing, and I've been looking forward to seeing you all week. This week, we're continuing some work we did last week on our narrative essays. It's going to be so fun. And we're adding color to our writing, just a little color. Just think language play, color, think white walls, gray walls. Let's just add a rainbow. Let's add some color. Let's play. While I share my screen, go ahead and get your notebook or your journal or piece of paper and a pencil to write with. If you have a colored pencil or two, you can use those as well. If not, no worries. Okay. Here we are. So this week we're focusing on revising, editing, and publishing our narrative essay. Last week, we focused on planning and developing a draft in our essay. This week, we're focusing on the next three steps: revising, editing, and publishing. But don't worry, if you don't have your essay from last week that you started, it's fine. You can start now and follow along. When we're revising, we're moving our things around, which I'll show you with ARCD. But also when we're editing, we're focusing mostly on the verbs that we're studying, the nouns from the last few weeks, common, proper, things like that. So things that we are studying in irregular verbs. Okay. I want you to take 30 seconds and just think of what this feels like to you. What does this feel like? Is it boring? Is it interesting? Are you curious about it? Just what are some thoughts? 30 seconds. I'll be quiet. All right, time's up. So I am hoping that you're a little curious. Why were some of these things crossed out? On time, early, color, bright, all these arrows, provide education, proactive, bright future. Things are highlighted, circled, starred, moved over here, inserted in red color. It looks like someone's had a lot of fun on the playground. And this happens to be habit 2, where we're beginning with the end in mind, which means even with our writing, we're thinking, what's our goal? What's our end? We want to produce a story right now. This is our narrative essay. Well, so how do we get there? Well, part of it is having fun and believing that you can do it, because everyone here can be an author. Okay, so for our warm-up today, I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. And I want you to draw 2 circles on your paper. And we're thinking about and I'll explain how it works. So in the first one, you are saying, what does the word frustration look like? Here's the eyeball. Look like, feel like, and sound like. What does it look like, feel like, and sound like? Frustration. When you're frustrated, what does that look like, feel like, and sound like? And I want you to write whatever comes to mind. So look like, feel like, or if you see someone else frustrated, they're frustrated with something, what are they doing? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And the next one is, instead of said, the word said, like he said, she said, think of anything else you can say. Instead of said, I can say, and just write down your words. I started a couple for you. Instead of said, I can say mumbled, shouted, and you just write your words down. Okay, timer's going. All right. Okay, so let's play with words. Let's go ahead and think about this. Frustration. When someone's frustrated, what are they doing? Well, I'm going to insert a text box. What does it look like when they're frustrated? Looks like, and I heard some things like this. That's right. Looks like when someone's frustrated, it looks like their body tenses up. What happens? If you're, what happens to your face? Just imagine that. What happens to your face? I'm going to show you real quick. What's going on? I don't know why I can't. Look at your face. When you're frustrated, what's your face doing? Just imagine something. Think about if the tech ever frustrates you. You can't get it. Something just happened. You're in and out of your class and you can't get it. What are you thinking? What are you doing with your hands? What am I doing with my hands right now? So my hands kind of come into my face. What's my mouth look like? Is my smile upturned? Downturned. All right. What's happening? Frustrated. Eyes are squinting. Jaws tense. So things like that. Okay. Bodies tense up. Hands come to face, maybe. To face or to temples. To temples. Right by the face, temples. What else? Steam starts coming out of head. Not really. Steam comes from head, right? You're starting to heat up, body's heating up. So frustrated. Okay, it feels like, what does it feel like? Okay, that's where your body's heating up. Body is heating up. And you're feeling like what? Body is heating up. Confused, getting confused. Maybe angry. You're not just frustrated anymore. You're not just irritated. You're getting confused, moving towards anger. And these are just things you're writing down without worrying about your grammar. Just writing toward. Look at my spelling. It should make you feel better. Toward, or my typing. Towards anger. Okay. Who knows? When you start to get super frustrated, all sorts of things can happen. And that's when you have to also apply your tools, like a deep breath. Okay, what does anger sound like? I mean, what does frustration sound like? Frustration can sound like, sighing. I often hear a deep sigh from someone, deep sigh. Maybe someone pounds the table or taps the table, deep sigh, taps table. What do when someone's frustrated, what does their knee do? If you're frustrated, do you ever move your knee? Knee moves up and down, 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 right? Jittery. Okay. So you've got these things like this. Now, that is what we're doing here is we're showing rather than telling. We're looking at these ways of, I'm going to just grab this and move it over here. Instead of saying that someone is frustrated, we can say, instead of saying someone is frustrated, we can say, gosh, their body's tensing up. And you can give your reader credit for their intelligence. You can make it engaging and interesting for them by describing it versus just telling. Because if you just tell them, it's like, everybody's going to snore, right? Like, oh, how boring, how boring, how boring. Maybe they're interesting parts, but to really add some color to your writing, let's show instead of tell. So that's kind of our practice. Now, next thing is a lot of people will say said. There's a saying called said is dead. What else can we say? Mumbled, shouted. Well, those are two very different things. but said doesn't say that. So someone mumbled, shouted, or we had things like muttered. Muttered is sort of in the hand of mumbled, muttered. Muttered is meaning they've got this connotation of they're down, they're negative about it. I'm gonna have to move on. I'm gonna do one more. So said, shouted, they whispered. They rejoiced, they recited. Someone can say something, but they're reciting it, recited, right? So they memorized it and they're saying it that way. Pronounced, pronounced, and other things like that. I'll put it down here, pronounced. They announced the birth of the new child, or they announced the birthday of one of you. Right? Announced, or they sang the response, all these different things. All right, you get the idea? Play. Now, all right, just for the genre vocab, we're going through things. We're talking about narrative literature. So we are imitating that as we write. So we're thinking story. Narrative tales, traditional tales, they have stories, they have characters, plot elements, setting, events, right? Some kind of problem. And then we're also working on our regular verbs, irregular verbs, past tense, present, future, and our helping verbs. So those are what we're looking for this time around. Now, for the writing process, what I wanted to show you was I had my students, oops, what's happening here? I had my students write this out because I think it's so important to see the steps. Step 1, plan a draft. Step 2, go down here, develop a draft. But planning a draft, which is what we did last time, you can brainstorm, right? Right here, you can brainstorm with these circles. Or over here, here's an idea. It goes, here's some details. Oh, it goes over to this idea. Here's some details. Details goes, oh, it goes over to this idea. And then this idea, detail. Oh, and this is the one that I want to develop. So that's sort of getting your ideas on the paper, because guess what? The first idea you have is most likely not the best. So get the rest out. One can lead to another, and then all of a sudden, whoo, magic. So you're planning a draft, you're free writing, you're mapping things out like beginning, middle, and end. So you can do this a number of ways and you'll find a way that works for you. Then we develop our draft. So our BME is a little more developed, like we have a hook, setting, why important for the beginning. The middle has the action and the 5 senses. This is just a way. And the end can have a lesson. Or you can even develop the beginning 5 different ways with the setting, action, dialogue. So you change it. You literally write your story from 5, it says 5+ ways, so 6 different ways. So that's plan a draft, then develop a draft, then revise a draft, where we're using ARCD. We're improving our writing by adding, rearranging, combining, or deleting, taking away. So I love this stage because it's the sticky notes. You can do the highlighters. You can do the colored pencils. You want to layer your writing. It's kind of like a sandwich in some ways. If you just have bread, not much of a sandwich. If you add the bread and the mustard and the mayonnaise and the lettuce and the different kinds of meat and the cheese and the la la la, you get a much more interesting sandwich. Except for with revising a draft, you're also maybe moving things around. Then you edit your draft. We're looking just for a couple things: capitalization, grammar, punctuation, spelling, and then you publish your draft. Okay, so this is what we did last week. We planned it, we used the prompt, a time I worked hard and met a goal. This is one of our 3 writing prompts for this unit. And then so that was a brainstorm, and then moving this into, I modeled how we can just develop it into kind of this rough outline of a beginning, middle, and end, but it's an easy way to move it in where we took some parts out, we X'd the parts that weren't necessary and focused on some that were more so. Then we're moving to a new time. So here we're going to develop that draft a bit more and revise it. And this is something I did with my students this week on this other essay. We were adding and subtracting. So here's our beginning hook, and we were looking at all sorts of things. So here, needs a transition. So it needs a transition here. Maybe we highlight some things that don't quite work. We added more senses. We added sensory language. We had, did we see something? Did we feel something? Let's add some in if we didn't. And so someone added a simile, like a wildfire heating my body up. So that's what the face reddening. And then we wanted to add another sense. So then another student came up with, this was James, I think, I bite my tongue, just making the day worse as I taste the salty blood. So you've got the taste. So by adding a sensory language, it makes it more interesting. And then in our end, we have these other things, and we even delete it. So just want to show you the beautiful process. Now, I'm going to come back to you for a minute before I step back in. It may look kind of overwhelming, but it's not. The cool thing about revising is you can move things around. You can try them out. You don't have to commit. So a great way to do it is to kind of map things out and to use maybe sticky notes or pieces of paper to tape on top so that you can play and try it that way. Or once again, use your arrows like I was doing, your arrow with another color and then going onto another piece of paper and writing out your ideas there so you can think about it. Is this a good place to insert this or something to add, or is it something I should delete? Does it really work with the flow of the story with my beginning, middle, and end? Okay, now I'm back here. Okay, so here we go. Slideshow. So from this one, so we have our beginning, and I just moved it into this platform. I really like this. So here's just, we had our writing prompt, which was write about a time that you worked hard and basically met a goal. And so this is what we did. Who was our audience? We'd already decided that, okay, it's students and their families. What's the author's purpose? So I'm writing a narrative essay. What's my purpose? If I'm even wanting you to connect with emotion, am I trying to persuade you of something? Is this a persuasive paper? No. Am I just trying to give you a lot of information? Even if I'm trying to teach you something, am I giving you information like a lot of facts? Or am I trying to connect with your emotions, tell a story, and connect that way? So yes, it's going to be E. So I will write about the time when COVID-19 hit the US and the schools suddenly shifted to virtual teaching, which was challenging and rewarding on so many levels. And then what I did is I'm going to look at you again so that you can see me. And I have it here. In the beginning, I want you to listen to the beginning. I struggled with tech at the beginning of the pandemic and even had 2 virtual meetings going on at the same time. I felt like crying, but had to keep going on for my students. So that's the beginning. Here's the middle. My parents and grandparents stepped in and helped me supervise one virtual classroom and get kids to the correct classroom. My heart filled up when I saw the community working together for our students. And then the end. Maybe it was the kids getting to watch adults struggle, mess up, get uncomfortable, reach out, try again, and work together. That was the real lesson instead of the math lesson. All right, it needs a little bit of work, but we've got a structure. So now let's all right, it's kind of like, are you just going to put clothes on, or are you going to kind of create an outfit that works with your mood and the event that you're going to? If it's school or if it's a pajama party, 2 different things, or the beach, you're wearing different clothes. So what are we putting together here? All right. Here we go. Oh my goodness, I picked the wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so I struggled with the sudden shift to tech, the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm adding sudden, and then what I want you to think about is, here you're going, what can I add? Actions, dialogue, thoughts, feelings, and description. So you're gonna pick, I'm gonna pick a few things, and you are too. What can we do to our beginning to kind of make it pop? We can add, we want to start with a hook. So how can we grab someone's attention? And then we're picking a couple of these other things. And I decided on thoughts and setting. So my hook was, or an action was, glancing at my phone because of the ding, ding, ding. So I'm adding sound. I realized that things were worse than I had thought. And then here's the ding, ding, ding down here. So I was adding sound because you're getting the setting. Where it's the setting, these things are all happening. All the tech stuff is happening. Okay, I've got some things out of sequence. But what's happening, that's hilarious. So glancing at my phone because of the ding, ding, ding. Okay, so I have that. This is me getting a little too fancy with my tech here. Hope this is making you feel good. All right. And I will get rid of that. Okay, so I had something else, and it was, so glancing at my phone because of the, I realized that things were worse than I had thought. So that can be my hook, because, so I'm going to move this up here and copy it up here. Reason is we need a hook, and it makes me wonder what's happening. Things are worse. Okay, glancing at my phone because of the ding, 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 I realized that things were worse than I had thought. Now I have here, I struggled with the sudden shift. Stuck on here, not sure why. I struggled with the sudden shift to tech at the beginning of the pandemic, and even had 2 virtual meetings. Well, this is something I can also change. I struggled with the sudden shift. I felt like crying because I had to keep going for my students. I'm really saying I felt like crying. I need to show that emotion, but let's move this one over here instead. So I'm going to draw an arrow over here and say this belongs in the green. This feeling belongs in the green, because in the first one, we want our hook and our setting and our purpose. I don't know if you can see the purpose, but it's here. That's kind of what we're setting up, our hook, our setting, and our purpose. And then in the middle section, we're looking for our action and 5 senses. So we can now we can move this over here. I felt like crying, but I had to keep going for my students. My parents and grandparents stepped in and helped me supervise 1 virtual classroom and get kids in the correct classroom. My heart filled up when I saw the community working together for our students. Okay, this last sentence definitely needs to go to this memory one, because the third section, which we had talked about before, is about kind of the reflection and the lesson, and this doesn't have to do with the action and the 5 senses. So just like we did in our warm-up today, we talked about how things looked. How did we see, how did someone look frustrated? Well, now we need to add that in. How does someone look frustrated? How do they feel frustrated? How would I? And then what do I hear? So here we keep going. So let's see, I can add in action, dialogue, thoughts, feeling, description. I went ahead and checked a few. I checked, here we go. So Elijah said, I added dialogue. It's okay, Mrs. Butcher, we've got you. And that's when I felt like I was going to start crying and giving up. And my thoughts, this can't be happening. How do I fix this? So I need to add that, check. And actually I didn't do action this time. I'll erase it. And how do I fix this? And then how am I feeling? My face flushed tomato red and I started breathing rapidly. On the verge of a panic attack. Okay. And then in the end, So those can work in. Let's see, which ones do I want to keep? I could say my parents and grandparents stepped in, and I could say, it's okay, Miss Butcher. That's right there. This can't be happening. How do I fix this? Should go right after this, the one here with, I felt like crying, but had to keep going for my students. This can't be happening. How do I fix this? And my face flushed and I start breathing. So one of these, we need to figure out the order. This can't be happening. How do I fix this? That's right here. Is right here. This can't be happening. How do I fix this? My face flushed tomato red and I started breathing rapidly. It doesn't mean we have to use all of these, but we want to put them together in our full essay to see how we want to be able to move them in and pick which ones would be the best, right? And then here we have, maybe it was the kids getting to watch adults struggle, mess up. So we know it'll instead start with, my heart filled up when I saw the community working together for our students. My heart, right here. Synergizing to make virtual school successful. Maybe it was the kids getting to watch adults struggle, mess up, get uncomfortable, reach out and try again and work together. That was the best lesson of all. So really just by going through different ways of adding beginning, middle, and end, seeing, do I want to add action, thoughts, and description? Do I want to add dialogue? Just picking a couple for each one, that fleshes out your story. So watch how quick this happens. I will very quickly, see if I can do this. I'm over on this side. I will, oh, where am I? Okay, glancing at my phone is here. So I need to come back here. And I'll pick this one up, pop it in. It's not going to be beautiful. I struggled with it. Oh, okay. But I had to keep, felt like crying, but I had to keep going on for my students. All right. That one's going to go to the next paragraph. All right. And I come back here and I go, okay, what's this one? This goes here, Control C, and I'll come back over here, just trying to show you how we actually can move things around. Oops, that's not working. Okay. Okay. I felt like crying. I'm going to make this all green. And then this. Okay. That little guy. I know I still need to move things around, but I'm just getting it set up. Let's see. Okay. I felt like crying, but had to keep going for my students. My parents and grandparents stepped in. All right, I already know that I'm missing. I got to add in those other lines. So what was it? I felt like crying, and then I go, but I had to keep going because of my students. This can't be happening. Oh, here I go. I'm going to do what I'm feeling. My face flushed, right? My face flushed, and I started breathing rapidly. I'm going to bring this feeling in to add those emotions to our draft. I want to put the parents and grandparents helping off till a little bit later because I need to get this in. My face flushed tomato red and I started breathing rapidly. So instead of saying I felt like crying but had to keep going, we could delete that maybe, but anyway, it's something to think about. I felt like crying kind of tells you. Instead, my face flushed tomato red and I started breathing rapidly, wanting to stop, but I had to keep going for my students. Whoops. Okay, we can get that part in a minute. And then anyway, you see how then we can move this next part, and I would go with this. I'll just do this. New one. and add it in. And here's part of our ending. Almost done. Whew. We're working our magic together, people. Working it together. Okay. So we actually have pretty decent story right here. We would have to just edit a little more. Of course, we're running out of time because it's usually a little more than a writing lesson just in this amount of time, but I still want to show you how manageable this is and how we can make magic. We can work our magic with these techniques. So here I still have my beginning, middle, and end. And let me just read it to you. There's more we can do with it, but I'll show you a finished product, and I want you to understand we can do this. And the more you write, the better you get at writing. Okay. Glancing at my phone because of the ding, 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 I realized that things were worse than I had thought. I struggled with the tech at the beginning of the pandemic and even had 2 virtual meetings going on at the same time. I felt like crying, but had to keep going for my students. My face flushed tomato red, and I started breathing rapidly. Fortunately, parents and grandparents stepped in and helped me supervise one virtual classroom and get kids to the correct classroom. Oh, I forgot to add in Elijah's quote, "It's okay, Miss Butcher, we've got you." I have to add that in. It was just so good. I still remember it. I still remember it because that's what taught me my lesson. That is truly what taught me my lesson, that it's okay. Control V, here it is. Elijah said, "It's okay, Mrs. Butcher, we've got you." And see, that helped me know I'm okay. Because you know what? Teachers feel like panicking too. Panic too. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And how do I fix this? It's beyond my comprehension. But we worked together. Then my heart filled up when I saw parents, grandparents, family, teachers, and students synergizing to make virtual schools successful. And maybe it was the kids getting to watch adults struggle, mess up, get uncomfortable, reach out, try again. And that was the best lesson of all, or something. I'll have to work on the end, but that was the real lesson. It wasn't just the math. It was watching adults struggle and fail, but have to try again. It was watching people get messy and have to try again. So you can see we'll keep working with this, but I want to show you I've got something I can work with. You've got something you can work with. And I'll come back to it, but I want to check out one more thing. I want to end with at least one of these. Slideshow from this, and we'll be done. I have to do my shout out. Here's a published one. So from one class, computers in school with pancakes all day. It feels like summer, but it's not. School closes and goes virtual because of the coronavirus. We have to wash our hands continuously and sing the happy birthday song. Who knew that we would be pandemic pioneers? My shoulders slump and my smile turns upside down as the tech lags again. My screen freezes and the sound goes out. I type in the chat bar, "I can't unmute myself. Can someone tell me what's going on?" And I only see half of your screen and the other half is orange. My friends try to cheer me up and help me with technology. When the tech confused me or the internet went out, I did get close to tears at times. However, I learned to take a deep breath and focus on my circle of control. Then I reached out for help and tried again. I've got grit. Besides, We're going down in history as the first generation to go to virtual school, and we have stories to tell. I'll see you next week. Keep writing and have fun. Bye.